September 14th, Panama City, Florida, the state attorney's office. Christina Caldwell walks through the door. Her husband Paul walks in behind her. They are not there to support their son-in-law. They are there to help put him away. This is not a theory. This is not speculation. This is a court filing that dropped on July 29th, 2026, and it confirms something that most people in the Duggar world never expected. Kendra Duggar's parents, the parents of Joseph's wife, are officially on the prosecution's witness list. They are 2 of 5 witnesses the state plans to call against Joseph Duggar at his trial. And their deposition is scheduled for September 14th, one day before the trial begins. Let that sink in for a moment. Your daughter married a man, you watched the wedding, you were at the ceremony, you welcomed him into your family, and now you are walking into a government building to sit across from his lawyer and testify about what he did to a child. The court documents obtained by People confirm the witness list. 5 witnesses, 2 of them are Kendra's own parents, Christina Caldwell and Paul Caldwell. Their son-in-law is facing 2 counts of lewd and lascivious behavior against a minor in Bay County, Florida, and they have chosen to take the stand for the prosecution, not the defense. Now think about what that means on a human level. Not a legal level, a human one. When your wife's parents agree to testify against you, it means something has shifted so fundamentally that the normal loyalties no longer apply. In most families, in-laws close ranks. They protect their daughter's husband because protecting him protects their daughter. They circle the wagons, they say nothing. They cooperate with the defense, they stay quiet. They show up to court and sit on the defendant's side and stare straight ahead and refuse to answer questions from reporters. The Caldwells did the opposite. They looked at the situation and they chose the child. They chose the accuser. They chose to walk into a deposition room and answer questions under oath about what they know, what they saw, and what they understand happened. And they did it knowing that their daughter is married to the man they are helping prosecute, knowing that their grandchildren are his children, knowing that every answer they give in that room could contribute to a conviction that would take their granddaughter's father away forever. That takes something most people do not have. Most people would look away. Most people would say that is between them and the courts. Most people would say, I do not want to get involved. Most people would protect their own, even when their own is wrong, because that is what families do. That is the unwritten rule. You protect your family. You do not air your laundry. You do not help the government build a case against your son-in-law. You especially do not do it when your daughter is still married to him and when 4 grandchildren are caught in the middle. But the Caldwells broke that rule. And the question that everyone should be asking is why? What did they see? What do they know? What happened during that trip to Panama City Beach that made them willing to do this? Here's what we know from the reporting. The alleged incidents occurred during a family trip to Panama City Beach. The accuser was 9 years old at the time. The affidavit describes Joseph asking the child to sit on his lap numerous times. It describes touching that occurred under a blanket. These are the allegations that the state is building its case around. And the Caldwells were there. They were on that trip. They were in that house. They were present when the things that are now being described in court documents allegedly happened. So when they walk into that deposition room on September 14th, they are not walking in as casual observers. They are walking in as witnesses, as people who were physically present when the events in question took place. And the state attorney's office knows exactly what they are doing by putting them on the list. Family witnesses are devastating in criminal trials. A stranger's testimony can be dismissed as mistaken identity or unreliable memory. A police officer's testimony can be challenged as procedural error. An expert witness can be countered with another expert. But a family member's testimony, especially an in-law's testimony, carries a weight that juries feel in their gut, because jurors understand what it costs to testify against your own family. They understand that no one does that lightly. They understand that when a mother and father walk into a courtroom to testify against the man their daughter married, it means the evidence must be overwhelming. It means the truth must be undeniable. It means these parents looked at the situation and decided that silence was not an option. Think about what a jury sees when Christina Caldwell takes the stand. They see a mother who raised a daughter, a mother who watched her daughter marry into a famous family, a mother who probably had hopes and dreams for that marriage, for those grandchildren, for the life her daughter was building. And now they see that same mother sitting in a witness chair, being questioned by a prosecutor, answering questions about what her son-in-law did to a child. The contrast between what she hoped for and what she is living is written on her face. And every juror in that room will see it. And Paul Caldwell, a father, a man who presumably shook Joseph's hand at the wedding, a man who called him son, a man who trusted him with his daughter, now sitting in that same chair answering questions that are designed to help send his son-in-law to prison. The betrayal that the jury perceives is not the Caldwells betraying Joseph. It is Joseph betraying the Caldwells. He betrayed their trust, he betrayed their daughter, he betrayed their grandchildren, and the Caldwells are there to say so under oath. Now put yourself in Kendra's position for a moment. She is 27 years old. She has 4 children with Joseph. She married him when she was young. She was raised in the same fundamentalist world he was, and now she is watching her own parents prepare to testify against her husband, her mother, her father, the people who raised her, who held her as a baby, who walked her down the aisle. They are now going to sit in a room with government lawyers and answer questions that could help send her husband to prison for the rest of his life. How does a wife survive that? How do you sit at a dinner table with your children knowing that your mother and father are preparing to help dismantle your husband's defense? How do you explain to your kids that grandma and grandpa are going to court against daddy? How do you hold your family together when the people who are supposed to be your support system are also the people helping the prosecution? This is the psychological trap that Kendra is living in right now. And it is a trap that many women in similar situations recognize. Maybe you have watched a family member choose justice over loyalty. Maybe you have been the one who had to choose. Maybe you have sat in that impossible space between the person you married and the people who raised you, and you felt the ground cracking under your feet because there is no position you can take that does not cost you something. If you stand with your husband, you lose your parents. If you stand with your parents, you lose your husband. And if you try to stand in the middle, you get crushed by both sides. The prosecution knows what they are doing. This is not a random witness list. This is a chess move. The state attorney's office in Bay County looked at this case and made a strategic decision. They could have relied on police testimony and forensic evidence. They could have called investigators and experts, but they chose to put family members on the stand. They chose to put the parents of the defendant's wife on the stand because they understand something about human psychology that every trial lawyer knows. When family turns against family, juries listen. When the people who should be most loyal to the defendant are instead helping the prosecution, the message to the jury is clear. If his own in-laws are against him, what does that tell you about what he did? And there is something else happening here that nobody is talking about. The silence from the Duggar side. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar have said nothing. The family that built a brand on values and morality and faith has gone completely quiet while their son faces a possible life sentence and their daughter-in-law's parents prepare to testify against him. That silence is not accidental. That silence is a strategy. You do not comment because commenting means taking a position, and every position you can take is a losing one. If you defend Joseph, you look like you are protecting someone accused of harming a child. If you condemn him, you turn against your own son. So you say nothing. You wait. You hope the story moves on. But the Caldwells are not waiting. They are not staying silent. They are walking into that room on September 14th, and they are going to answer questions. And the conversations that must have happened at their dinner table before they agreed to do this, those are the conversations that define a family. Imagine being Christina Caldwell. Imagine sitting across from your husband at the kitchen table and saying, "Our son-in-law may have hurt a child and we were there and we have to do something about it." Imagine the weight of that conversation. Imagine the tears. Imagine the anger. Imagine the grief. And then imagine the resolution. The quiet, determined decision that truth matters more than loyalty, that a child matters more than a brand, that justice matters more than keeping the peace. And imagine the phone call. Imagine Christina calling Kendra. Imagine telling your daughter that you are going to testify against her husband. Imagine the silence on the other end of the line. Imagine the tears. Imagine the anger. Imagine Kendra saying, "How could you do this to me?" And imagine Christina saying, "I am doing this for the child. I am doing this because someone has to. I am doing this because if I stay silent, I am part of what happened." That is the conversation that no reporter will ever get. but it is the conversation that decided everything. Because before there was a witness list, before there was a court filing, before there was a deposition date, there was a mother and a father sitting at their kitchen table deciding what kind of people they were going to be. And they decided to be the kind of people who show up. That is what September 14th represents. It is not just a deposition date. It is the moment when a family decides what it stands for. The Caldwells have decided. They are standing with the child. And for Kendra, standing in the middle of all of this with 4 children and a husband who is facing life in prison, the question is no longer about what happened in Panama City. The question is about survival. Emotional survival, financial survival, maternal survival. How do you keep going when your entire world is being taken apart in public, piece by piece, filing by filing, witness by witness? This is not just a legal update. This is a family being autopsied in open court. Every witness the state calls is another incision. Every deposition is another layer peeled back. And by the time the trial begins on September 15th, there will be nothing left to hide. Not for Joseph, not for Kendra, not for the Caldwells, not for the Duggars. The only question that matters now is whether the truth that comes out in that courtroom will finally be enough to change the story. Or whether the story will keep repeating itself the way it always has in this family, with new victims and new scandals and new headlines, while the people at the top keep their mouths shut and their brand intact. The Caldwells chose the child. And in a family where silence has always been the default, that choice is the loudest thing anyone has said in a very long time.